Gang, what is up? We are hanging out in the studio today, and I wanted to chat real quick. I wanted to chat a little bit about landscapes and depth. And I have a couple videos on this where I chat about it. They're a little bit longer, and I'm kind of going through the whole process, but I wanted to chat a little bit more just bare bones, really getting into the nitty-gritty of how to achieve depth, how to make things look a little bit closer, how to make things look like they're a medium ground, how to make things look like they're further in the distance. And I have some videos on this where I show myself actually painting these, but I wanted to show you some good examples where you can really see it. And I think this will make it abundantly clear. So the two things to achieve depth are, by the way, I'm about to say what they are, but I wanted to show you here. Sometimes what I'll do a smaller to medium size painting like this, just to kind of figure out what my colors are going to be, figure out how the depth is going to work. But I'll do something smaller like this before moving to the larger painting like this. And this really helps. So this is kind of nice, and this helped me kind of figure out my colors and how I was going to do depth. But if you look at the details, for example, if you look at those weird mushroom boulder, I don't know what they're called, mesas, way in the distance there, you kind of see some basic shapes where here, when you look at the ones, there's a lot more detail going on here, but as you look closer and closer to the ones in the distance, not that there's a lot of detail, but there's definitely more than you see in this little comp right here. So how is depth achieved? How did I make it look like some of these are closer and some of these are farther away? Well, there's two tricks to doing that. And as I've mentioned in other videos where I'm kind of showing this process, the trick is that the closer things are, the more values you're going to have, the more darks and lights you're going to have, and it's going to be more saturated, way more color as things are closer. Then as things go back in the distance, you're going to have less contrast and less saturation. So that means things that are farther away, they're not as dark, and they don't have as bright of highlights, but also you're not going to see as much color. So there's some fun colors happening, but they're not as vivid. They're a little bit more grayed out. If you look at some of these rocky structures in the background, you'll notice that they're just not as colorful. They're more grayed out than the areas that are closer. The closer it is, again, more contrast and more saturation of color. Another thing that I'm always trying to do, which I did in these pieces as well, is I'm usually with this technique or any kind of, doing any kind of landscape, I'm usually working from the background to the foreground because overlapping helps quite a bit. And you could kind of do a paint by number and kind of paint it all at once, but I think it's just a little bit easier, and it is the Bob Ross technique, and it's kind of a technique that a lot of people use when they're creating landscape paintings, because that way you just have perfect overlapping, and it just helps quite a bit. See how certain areas look a lot? I mean, it's kind of cartoony with the colors, and there's a little bit of outline happening here. So granted, this does look a little Disney-esque. It's a little cartoony with the colors, but make no mistake about it, you can absolutely tell what is closer, what is middle ground, and what is background. And that's how you achieve depth. Probably went a little more colorful than most landscape painters would go, and maybe that is taking some of the realism away. Maybe that makes it look a little more animated or something. I kind of dig the look of it though, but again, that is the secret. Things that are closer to you, more dark, more contrast, more saturation, and then things further away, not as much. Comprende? All right, put it to good use in your landscapes.